to the Progressive Action TV show, and we got a great line up today. We are going to talk that y'all been really waiting for on this channel. I have a special guest, and I will be getting to him very, very shortly. But before I start that, y'all know the routine. I need for everyone to share out this live. I need for you guys to make sure you donate to the channel, $ Progressive Action 100. The phone lines will be open tonight. I'm not going to open them right now. I'm going to open them up halfway through the show. And we're going to get to it. Take 60 seconds, share out the live. I see a lot of people coming in right now. Yes, it's going to be that type of show today. It's definitely going to be that type of show. And one thing I want to tell y'all about when I have guests on my show, I do not like to talk to them prior. When I ask questions, I want it to be the first time I hear their answers. So when y'all hear their answers or his answer, it's going to be the first time I hear it. It's going to be the first time that y'all heard it. So the first order of business I want to get into today is we're not safe riding the MTA Assault Rally. We're having an MTA Assault Rally, a safety rally. This is for the strap hangers. This is for the workers. This is for the people in the community. This will be May 1st at 12 p.m. at 2 Broadway MTA headquarters. You guys know I've been doing this rally consecutively for many years. This one is going to be our biggest yet. I promise you guys. I promise you this will be our biggest rally yet. Now, what I would like to do is that I'm going to get into some news that happened today, certain things that I would like to touch on before I bring on my guests. I'm telling you, this is going to be a super, super, super important interview. Trust me when I tell you. Let me get into another promotion real quick. My brother Champ, from formerly of My Expert Opinion, is having a women's celebration. Y'all know it's Women's Month, and it's called The Power of She. This event will be Saturday, March 30th, 2024. Time 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. The location will be at the Box Factory. That's 1519 Decatur Street in Ridgewood, New York. This is an important event. You could go to Champ page at Champ MEO on Instagram. You could click on the link and check that out. Yeah, so before that was the promotions. Let me get into the news real quick. So a lot of people is wondering about the real reason, the National Guards coming into the subway system. And it's, Kathy Hochul was like, I care about the safety and things of that nature. That's why she had the National Guard come down. I'm here to tell you guys that was false. And I'm going to break it down to you guys real quick. So back on March 7th, there was a security alert telling people to avoid large gatherings over the next 48 hours. And this was regarding Moscow, Russia. So the embassy is monitoring reports that extremists have imminent plans to target large gatherings in Moscow, to include concerts, and U.S. citizens should be advised to avoid large gatherings over the next 48 hours. Now, if you look at the date of that, once again, it was March 7th, 2024. If you look at the date when Kathy Hochul deployed the National Guards into the subway system, you guessed right. It was March 7th, 2024. Now, let's think about that for a second. A lot of people was questioning the deployment of the National Guards in the subway system and their locations. They was mostly at major hubs. People was like, well, why are they not in Brooklyn? Why are they not in the Bronx? Why are they not in Queens? It's simple. They was never meant to be there. The National Guard deployment was all in the reaction of the intel that they had of the Moscow, Russia situation, in which it actually happened, right? So whenever there's a threat abroad and they feel that it's credible, you will see the National Guard deployed all throughout the United States at prominent points. And maybe our guests could talk about this a little later, because they will have insight. But yeah, that's what happened with that. So it wasn't about safety. It was about the threat that got abroad from Moscow, Russia, and things of that nature, right? And guess what? The National Guard is in the system, and guess what's happening still? And this was today. A man was stabbed multiple times in the back during a dispute over smoking on a Brooklyn subway train. Crazy, right? The crime continues to happen. And that wasn't the only stabbing for the day of today. A woman was stabbed at Franklin Avenue train station in Brooklyn, right? Now, the person wasn't caught, of course. How can someone commit a crime like that at Franklin Avenue, get away with it, not get caught when there's supposed to be police crawling all over the system? It makes absolutely no sense as to why that has happened, but it goes on to what I've been saying this whole entire time. The NYPD, in my opinion, is poorly deployed throughout New York City transit. This is a fact. People do crimes and get away with it. And if it wasn't for cameras, these people wouldn't even get caught. And come to find out, a lot of these cameras do not even work. Now, coincidentally, today, the NYPD announced a new operation called Operation Fair Play, in which they're going to deploy 800 cops strictly to turnstiles. In fact, let's get to the video talking about it. Check it out.
So good afternoon, everyone. And look, Mayor Adams and the Police Commissioner Caban have been crystal clear since day one that public safety is their top priority. And, in the beginning of February and at the direction of City Hall and NYPD leadership, we increased the deployment of police officers into the New York City subway system. This deployment is an example of our continued commitment toward public safety, and the results of these investments over the last couple of months have been encouraging. Overall crime in the subway system in February was down, and so far in the month of March, that downward trend continues, where overall crime so far in March is down 15.5% when compared to last year. It's clear to everyone watching that we recognize the importance of a safe and orderly subway system, and that is why we were here. This afternoon, I'm announcing the expansion of the NYPD's presence within the subway system. Operation Fair Play, and that's FAIR spelled F-A-R-E, is a week-long operation starting today that might continue, and that will see the deployment of hundreds of officers to dozens of subway stations throughout the city. Operation Fair Play is a department-wide effort focused on fare evasion enforcement and will be supported by both transit officers and officers from outside bureaus, and by members in uniform and in plain clothes. Blatant fare evasion at the turnstiles remains one of the primary complaints from both law-abiding subway riders and the MTA. Our riders should not be subjected to open acts of lawlessness anywhere in our subway system. And that tone of law and order must start at the fare gates. Operation Fair Play is a reminder to those who would think about bringing disorder to our turnstiles and the rest of the subway system. Don't do it. Don't jump. Don't crawl. Don't come through the gate. Make the right decision. Enter the system properly and lawfully, because if you don't, chances are you will be stopped. You may walk away with a warning, or you may walk away with a summons, just like 28,000 other fare beaters did already this year. Or you may end up in handcuffs when circumstances dictate, like the 1,700 people did already this year. I'll end with this. Over the past several weeks, the riding public has seen a visible and palpable increase in uniform presence in our subways. With Operation Fair Play, they'll see even more.
Express 3, train 2, Middlesex Avenue, 2 minutes.
All right, so obviously, as we told you when we over.
I really don't understand why they decided to do a press conference in the train station with all the announcements, the train going by, and things of that nature. But 800 cops strictly to enforce fare evasion. My concern is, where are these cops going to be deployed? They said that they're not going to be looking to make arrests. They're going to be giving fines and courtesies, I guess. I don't know, but I'm more interested to see what else they have going on there. But in a future show, I would touch more on that. And coincidentally, Mr. Kemper, let me get this thing. Kemper and Davis had met up recently to talk about, I guess, crime in the subways and things of that nature. Now, for the people who don't know, Richard Davis is the TWU Local 100 president. But let's not get this twisted. This is another photo op. This is another nothing burger, because we all know, this is not a secret, the Local 100 president does not know of the issues that really plague transit workers. This is a fact. This is a fact. He does not know the issues that plague transit workers. If they not talking that real talk to the NYPD brass, I don't know what to say. I do not know what to say, but this is a nothing burger, a PR stunt. Richard Davis is up for election this year, and he's trying to do everything in his power to create a smokescreen to act like he cared. That's what that is about. It's about nothing else more than that. In more news, let's talk about a little bit of congestion pricing. There will be no exemptions for congestion pricing, y'all. That includes transit workers, that includes NYPD, that includes sanitation, FDNY, teachers, whatever it may be. It says, transit brass told the news that the MTA is not considering any exemptions for public workers' private vehicles. MTA officials characterized the exemption Sunday as clarifications to the tolling plan first authored by the state's Traffic Mobility Review Board and approved by the transit agency in December. As scheduled, the MTA will bring congestion price and toll rates to a vote this week, tied closely to Traffic Mobility Review Board recommendations, with certain clarifications that include items raised by the City of New York and others. Now, let's be clear about this. The MTA is known for wasting money. They are known for wasting money. They're not going to know what to do with all this money. They're not ready infrastructure-wise to handle all those people to come into the subways. It's not safe. There's a whole bunch of things going on. And just to show you guys what is going on, check this video out.
New technology. That's what's going on.
Waterfalls in the subway. So not only are the subways not safe, but the infrastructure for any type of inclement weather, specifically rain, it creates these conditions. And look how silly this looks in the subway. Check out this video right here. And now look at this one. This is allegedly the best subway system in the world, and they can't handle rainfall. People got to make, like when we was kids, used to play Mario, and you used to have to jump on the leads, the floating stuff in the water and stuff like that. That's what they was doing. And one of the allegedly best transit systems in the world, and I don't get that at the least bit. Let's touch on some Trump news real quick. So Trump has to pay $175 million from $454 million after the appeal, right? He just had the judge reversed it today, right? Now, whether it's $175 million or $454 million, guess what? According to Forbes, Trump is worth $2.6 billion. Even if he had to pay the $454 million, I don't think that it would hurt him much. Trump is almost a 3 times billionaire. I don't think that money will hurt him. I don't think that money will hurt him. But speaking of Trump, I got to speak of my guy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. As y'all know, he is an independent candidate. That's the guy that I'm actually supporting, RFK. I will get into a video later as to why I support him. My video actually went viral on my page. why I support him. I would touch on that at a later time, but this is a Kennedy 2024 movement right here. And to touch on some more news, just today, Puff Daddy, aka Diddy, homes in LA and Miami were raided by federal agents. Now, I ain't gonna touch on this much because I don't really touch on these topics, but I thought that it was important that I bring it up today. Could this all be connected? Let me take this off the screen. I need for people to see me. Could this all be connected to when Keefe D got arrested and he was making all these claims that Diddy had something to do with the killing of Tupac, and Keefe D was on TV saying, hey, Diddy, throw a brother a bone, throw a brother a bone. I don't know. Ever since that Keefe D got locked up, things have not been looking good for Diddy. I want to say that. But we have over 200 people right now tuned in, and the conversation is about to get good because I'm about to get my guest up on the page. And let me get his picture up there before I bring him on. So we have retired, I ain't gonna say former, retired NYPD Lieutenant John Macari, right? His experience, I want to be clear, his experience and knowledge from his years of service in the NYPD will provide a very valuable perspective on a variety of topics related to law enforcement, public safety, and community relations. Now, I would like to bring up officially, Lieutenant Macari. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, pleasure to be here, my friend. Thanks
for being a guest. And what I would like to say to you is that I do a lot of research. I would like to say salute to you for not having not a single letter on a 50A.
Well, it's actually not accurate. I'll tell you that it's not accurate. I do have some CCRBs. They didn't make its way to 50A. I was involved. I did do anti-crime work for over 13 years. So I was proactive police officer involved, you know, and I don't believe that the 50A is a true portrayal of a police officer either. It could be a sign. It's a chapter in somebody's book, but I don't believe it tells the whole story.
Okay, so speaking of that, right? I had filed a CCRB complaint against some police officers that was harassing me in my neighborhood back in 2008, and they were stopping and frisking me, and I filed the CCRB complaint, and they actually substantiated the charges against the officers, and they actually told on each other during the complaint. And when I followed up, when 58 first came out and I followed up, it was pretty accurate to my complaint that I made. So, you know, maybe that's something that we could discuss about the inaccuracies. But could you please provide the people with a brief overview of your career with the NYPD and some of the roles that you have held?
Yeah, absolutely. I served 18 years with the NYPD. I did retire early over the vaccine mandate. I refused to take the vaccine. I was an 18-year lieutenant. I retired at the rank of lieutenant. I served about 8 years as a police officer. Actually 7 years as a police officer, where I did anti-crime work. I did field intelligence work, so plainclothes work, unmarked cars at the height of stop, question, and frisk, door and broken windows policy under Mayor Bloomberg and Police Commissioner Ray Kelly. I was promoted to sergeant under Police Commissioner Ray Kelly and Mayor Mike Bloomberg. Again, I partook in proactive police work, proactive enforcement. I did a little bit of patrol time. I went right back into being an anti-crime sergeant, doing plainclothes work of that nature. From that position, I went into the Internal Affairs Bureau, where I served 2.8 years there. I was in an administrative role. I didn't do investigations or anything of that nature. And from that point on, it was towards the end of my career, and I took an administrative role where I was helping to oversee the facilities in the NYPD, trying to upgrade those. I was the integrity control officer, where I oversaw hundreds of actually union workers, such as carpenters, plumbers. I had a very small staff of some highly skilled police officers, but that's where I ended up at the end of my career.
Now, the title of the show is Who to Blame for the Police Issues in New York City. And I want to jump straight into it. Who would you point the finger at when it comes to police issues in New York City?
I mean, I always put everything solely on the leadership. So I have to go directly to the mayor. And with that, and with that, the people that he appointed in police management, because essentially the police management of the NYPD are mouthpieces for the mayor.
And who are those people?
It's the upper echelon of the NYPD. So we have Police Commissioner Edwin Caban. We have Chief of Patrol John Shell. We have the newly minted Deputy Commissioner Operations Kaz Daughtry. We have the Chief of Department Jeffrey Madry. We have the First Deputy Commissioner Tanya Kinsella. So that's what I would consider the upper echelon of the NYPD, the appointed management, as I do call them. Got it.
Now, speaking of Eric Adams, I did go through your Twitter and I seen this tweet that said, it was a retweet from you where it says new NYPD called a level 3 mobilization to Chambers and Center Street in New York City in response to ongoing pro-Palestine protests. And you put Eric Adams NYC. What did you mean by that?
Yeah. So, listen, New York's always been a place where there's been protests. All types of protests, right? Everything. We protest everything. We protest all types of things that are going on in the world, things that have nothing to do with New York City, political action, whatever it may be, the vaccine mandates, anything you could think of. There's been, for all of time in New York City, in modern history, there are protests every day on the streets in New York City, right? I believe the NYPD does do a great job, or has in the past done a great job of policing protests. But what we see currently is they're not doing such a great job of policing protests. We're seeing protests that are actually infringing on other people, particularly the workers of New York City, and workers, tourists, residents, people trying to get to and from, where we're seeing that roads are being blocked, streets are being blocked. And I believe that's a failure again in the leadership to take action to stop this. I believe if you don't bite things in the butt early on, then you will see things get out of hand. So a level 3 mobilization is a very high mobilization where now numerous officers from across the city are going to get called in to police that protest. I believe if they would have had a solid plan entering that protest, it wouldn't have needed. And that's what I meant by that. Eric Adams, New York City, it's a mess.
Now, let me ask you now, just to be fair, I mean, we had Occupy Wall Street by Mayor Bloomberg. We have under de Blasio, we had the Eric Gardner protests. And like you said, there was plenty of protests. We had the Million Youth March up under Giuliani, in which, as far as I remember, similar mobilizations was called. So this is not unheard of to happen up under any mayoral organization. But why single Eric Adams out?
It's not a night. It was definitely not a nightly thing, like where it is today. Today, you see nightly things. Yes, were there protests that got out of hand in the past? Absolutely. But were there protests every night that got out of hand? Absolutely not. I mean, for the most part, the protests, you would walk by a protest, go to work. You would drive by a protest, go to work. It wasn't something that was an inconvenience and where, critical infrastructure in New York City would be taken down, like as it is now. So yes, so like, again, that's just what I'm seeing every night in New York City.
Yeah, and also speaking of Eric Adams, there's this thing about Eric Adams being a party guy, a club guy, and things of that nature. And I pulled up a tweet from your page too. I found it actually funny. And you put, where's he's going to a fundraiser or a club? Where did this party, and I want to be clear. Me and Eric Adams was cool up until COVID. We bumped heads. We haven't seen eye to eye ever since. And things haven't been the same. So I get some of the stuff that people saying. Some I agree with, some I don't. But what about him? Like, what makes him the party? Like, why do people point to clubs when we talking about the mayor?
Because that's what he presents. He presents himself as the nightlife mayor, right? That's what he presents himself as. I'm the nightlife mayor. I like to dabble. He's consistently out, right? I don't know where he stands on anything, to be honest with you. I don't. I don't know. He's for them. He's for the migrants. He's against the migrants. He's for broken windows policing. He's against broken windows policing. I don't know who Eric Adams is truly. I mean, I think all of his stances, I think what he actually does is he takes far left stances, but in his words, he paints himself as a moderate. And the only thing I know that Eric Adams truly does is party. That's the only thing he's stayed true to, is partying. I mean, even the man's diet, he's not honest about. And I have no problem. Everyone's like, oh, what do you care what his diet is? I'm like, I don't. But like, when you say you're a vegan and you're sitting at a steakhouse in Miami and you're eating $1,000 gold crusted steak, I mean, it just shows to who your character is. So it's not, I'm like, even that, I don't know who you are.
Because it's funny for me, like, I've been hearing this party mayor stuff ever since he went to the Met Gala. He came with that jacket with the people with gun drawn on it, Subway stuff and all this other stuff. But what I found interesting is that other mayors went to Met Galas during their mayoralship. Specifically Bloomberg. Bloomberg went about 5 times. I just want to show that to the people real quick. This is him in 2008, and this is just doing like a regular search, 2010 and 2012. And for those who don't know, Bloomberg was the mayor from 2002 to 2013. So, mayors, I get it, because it does seem like Eric Adams is out a lot, and, he's want to party more than handle the issues of the city. I get how it looks. The optics look bad. So I'm not mad at that. And you also mentioned Kaz Daughtry, and I want to say something regarding Kaz Daughtry, because I didn't know him. It's crazy, because I had a few NYPD people call me yesterday and was asking me what was my problem with Kaz Daughtry. And I was like, well, my problem with him is him lying in the media about the safety in transit. And they was basically trying to get me, look, have a conversation with him. I'll have a conversation with him. I don't mind that. But I'm not going to stop the criticism of him, because he's going in the public saying some crazy things. But what is the issues that because you mentioned Eric Adams, Caban, and Daughtry. What is the issues with Daughtry?
I mean, I don't have much of an issue with them, other than I believe that they lie to the public. They don't give a good message to the public. I don't particularly like their leadership style, because I don't believe I see leadership. I believe I see Eric Adams talking through them, and they kind of are confused as to what their mission is. Kaz Daughtry's not a fan of myself or my podcast or my co-host. And we've received attacks from the upper echelon, from New York City Mayor Eric Adams and from Kaz Daughtry, and I personally have no issue with the man. I invited all of them on my podcast, and after inviting them on, I've had my children threatened. I've had ridiculous things happen because I'm critical, as we should be as Americans and as citizens, right? I might not be right, but I'm entitled to my opinion.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I seen a post on your page that said NYPD Kaz Daughtry reflects on the rise through the ranks. And I've heard this from plenty of police officers that, he never held a supervisory position. For him to go through to become the deputy commissioner, it rubs a lot of folks the wrong way. How do you feel about that, being that you rose through the ranks yourself to retire as a lieutenant?
Well, that's why I put the face. He really didn't rise through the ranks. He is now amongst the politically appointed. Eric Adams felt that he has the necessary skills to rise through the ranks. We did see that in the past with Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik. But I could see why people get perturbed about it. Like, hey, I took these tests, I went through this. But the knock that I hear a lot on Kaz Daughtry is his maturity level, is the fact, his ego. We've had numerous officers get in trouble, get reinstructed, get sent to other ends of the city for not saluting, for not calling attention when they don't even know who he is, because he's no longer even a uniformed member of the service. It's like me or you getting appointed today, and then we walk into a random precinct tomorrow. No one's going to know who you are, but from what I'm told from all my sources, that's what's expected. So I think he's made a lot of immature moves. He's made a lot of immature moves towards my podcast, but I have no personal qualms with him at all. And I would love to sit down and have a conversation with him.
That makes two of us. So I guess we got to get in line, right? So now let me ask you, when I play videos and stuff, do you hear it and can you see it?
I did when you were doing it before.
All
Yeah.
right. So I want to play a clip from Kaz Daughtry the other day when he sat down with Rosanna Scotto, and I want to ask you your opinion on what he said. So check it out.
People feel, Commissioner, they get on the subway and what we consider normal and safe is abnormal. They're dealing with mentally ill people. I mean, our producer took the subway yesterday and watched a woman defecate on the subway.
Roseanne, let me be clear. Our subway systems are very safe, right? But this incident that happened this is not a reflection of every single day in our transit system. You don't hear about shootings that happen every single day. And we understand that about what the passengers, that this is a traumatic event that they went through. We understand that. We empathize with them. But this is not an everyday occurrence in our subway system. There's 4 million riders a day that take the train that got to their destination safely. Do you know the day of that incident last Thursday was the first time since last September that they have over 4 million riders. I think it was like 4.1 million riders. And this one incident this should not memorialize every day that happens in our transit system.
What are your thoughts on that clip?
First of all, I don't think he should be public facing. I mean, he doesn't have the public relations skills to sit down with the media at this point. I think you could see the arrogance come out when he answers the question, and he goes back onto the company narrative of crime is down, our subways are very safe. But reality tells a totally different story. And what we see from the NYPD consistently, not just Kaz Daughtry, from Michael Kemper, from John Schell, from everybody, everything you hear is perception. It's the public's perception and fear. Our subways are safe. Everything's safe. Crime is down. And they're talking about anecdotal, like arbitrary time periods where their crime's down. Oh, crime was down last week for 14%. But overall, if you look at crime from 2019, it's up dramatically. So again, he's just pushing the company line, and he's not doing a very good job at that either. So.
Now, over your career, how have you seen police change from the time that you started to the time that you retired?
Well, I've seen more notably now that the police department has become very politicized. I've seen that the rank and file have become very squeamish to actually do their job, afraid. I see a lot of police officers who were once an emboldened department to go out and keep New York City safe. I now see officers that are timid, that are scared, that worry more about their pensions, worry more about the civil liability and criminal liability than they do about their own life at times. And it's scary to watch because the profession has been so heavily demonized, and there's been so much misinformation around the profession, particularly the New York City Police Department, which is the most diverse department in the world. You know, I hear a lot of things about policing is racist policing. And I don't know about Milwaukee, and I don't know about Indiana, but I know in New York City, policing is not racist.
Let me talk on that for a second, because during the whole George Floyd situation, this is the first time I have ever seen NYPD brass comment and say that those officers were wrong. But coincidentally, prior to George Floyd, we had Eric Gardner, we had Anthony Baez. Those was two men who was put in the chokehold by the police and basically were killed. And it's always like a white-black situation. And even with me, when my CCRB situation, it was white officers who pulled me over who said that, how did I afford to drive a car like that in this community? Automatically, they thought I was selling drugs or something like that. And I worked for the city my entire life. I believe that those situations were racially driven because it's always black against white. But in my opinion, you're right. It could be disguised as other stuff because you have black officers that have a what I call a white supremacy ideology, because white supremacy to me isn't a skin color. It's an ideology. Anybody could carry it out. White, black, Hispanic, Indian, don't matter what it is. But how can you say for a fact that you don't think that policing in New York City is racist?
Listen, I lived in the city for 43 years. I grew up in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. I watched from a very young age things get spun politically, the same way that the Eric Garner incident got spun politically, the same way the George Floyd incident got spun politically. I saw at 8 years old, I saw Yusef Hawkins get killed. And I watched that turn my neighborhood to that. We were a bunch of racist Italians who hated black people and hated anyone that wasn't Italian, to today. If you watch a documentary, Storm Over Brooklyn, now they'll say that it was white supremacy that killed him. And my entire life, I don't feel that I was ever considered white. As an Italian male, growing up poor in Brooklyn, I mean, I don't have the I don't have anything that pushed me ahead other than my parents' love. I don't believe Eric Garner was choked. So I will push back on that. I believe that there are systems that could be put in place, that could be put in place in policing that could be deemed racist. But at the same time, in my ideology and the way I look at things, I think that if you put a white man, poor white man, in that same neighborhood at that same time doing that same exact thing, you would see the same exact reaction. And I think when you look at the overall big picture of New York City, and when you see police bring down the heavy hand of the law, and when you see where you believe it's over policing, it's predominantly in neighborhoods where poverty is. It really isn't just skin color at that point, because again, I was an Italian kid. I grew up in Italian neighborhoods with Italian kids. There was a lot of crime in my neighborhood, a lot of mafia wannabes, a lot of drugs being sold, a lot of guns, and we were stopped a lot by the police. We were stopped. I've been stopped countless times. I've been arrested myself twice. I've spent nights in jail for doing absolutely nothing.
So, and another point with that is, when you say that NYPD isn't racist, you look at a former lieutenant, as far as Edwin Raymond is concerned, who's actually saying the opposite. How can you discredit his experience, not only as a black man in New York City, but also a black police officer who's saying that the system is essentially racist?
Yeah, so I'm not discrediting Edwin Raymond at all. His reality is his reality, but that's not my reality. My reality is that it stems to the impoverished neighborhoods. I mean, you look at crime, and you look at where it is and how the police handle situations. Are there racist cops? I'm sure there are. Are there cops that are criminals? I'm sure there are. Right? There's 35,000 people. Are there racist black cops? Of course there are. Are there racist white cops? Yeah. Are there racist Chinese guys that are cops? Absolutely. I mean, so I'm not discrediting that someone can't be racist, but I think overall, as a member of the NYPD and the system that's in place, I believe that what the NYPD really does is focus on combating crime. It's not racist driven. And I can tell you from myself, I've never stopped anyone for the color of their skin. I mean, I can't say it's never happened, but I could tell you the majority of people I know, very good people. They're not racist at all. You know, we grew up together, we married together, we had children together, we played together, we worked together. So in New York City, racism isn't at the forefront in my world.
Got it. I mean, it's different in different people worlds. You know, I'm quite sure Edwin would probably say something different. Now, you said that you worked in the street crime unit. That's correct, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, what strategies did you use while in the street crime unit? Because we call those street crime unit the hop out boys. They the guys who I've been chased by them numerous times for no reason at all. But what strategies did you find most effective with building bonds and relationships with people in the community?
Honestly, just getting out and talking to people, that's what it was. But a lot of the building bonds happened from the stops. Again, I was a kid. I hung out in parks. I hung out at night in parks where people were drinking, smoking marijuana. So I knew that because you doing those things doesn't necessarily make you a criminal. You just could just be a young kid in the park hanging out. And then there was people that were dealing drugs. There was people that were robbing people, people that were breaking into houses, and those people are criminals. So as what you would say, a jump out boy doing anti-crime, what we would do is I would look for criminal patterns, whatever it was, a rash of burglaries, a rash of robberies, and I would try to identify who is the target and who is doing that. Then I would go into that particular area and look for that target individual. And by looking for that target individual, I would look for people breaking minor crimes, such as drinking, such as smoking marijuana, such as driving without a proper license plate or unregistered vehicle. And I would use that as a tool in order to see if that individual had literal weapons on them, or I would sit back and watch them and follow them if it was in the case of a robbery or a burglary pattern. If it was something else where it was assaults, things of that nature, I would use minor crimes to stop individuals in order to stop and frisk them and search them.
Now, what are your thoughts on police reform? Throughout these past few years, we've been hearing defund the police and all types of crazy stuff. What are your thoughts on police reform and the path that the legislator has taken regarding bail reform and all that other stuff that affects policing?
So I think you ever hear what's the old saying? The path to hell is paved with good intentions. So I don't think anybody should spend the night in jail or be placed in jail long term because they can't afford bail for if they missed a child support payment. So I think that bail reform was presented under good intentions, but what they did is they opened up Pandora's box where they didn't just say the common sense times when this guy shouldn't spend the night, this guy shouldn't be put in prison, and because he can't pay $20 bail or $100 bail because he missed a child support payment, or because he got arrested for shoplifting and for trying to feed his family, or any of these minor crimes. What they did is they pushed it to things that you're like, no, that guy should wait in jail until the judge sees him, and they took it way too far. And again, I'm always for reform for anything. And I think we all should be as a society, right? We see things that are wrong, we should correct them, but they didn't overcorrect. They created a whirlwind of new problems.
Mm-hmm. Now, could you explain to the people out there who may not know what Comstat is?
Sure. So Comstat is, I think, the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions. So Comstat is what any organization would have. The NYPD has weekly meetings where they go over their crime numbers. They look at a particular borough, and by borough, I mean Queens, Manhattan South, Manhattan North, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and they'll look at that particular borough, and they'll look at the precincts in that borough, and they'll see where they're having problems in crime, where they're having trends in crime patterns, such as robberies, shootings, burglaries, whatever it may be. And they bring the heads of that precinct in to speak about what's their plan, what's happening, what's going on. And it's meant to redirect to ensure that everyone's on the same path. In a large organization such as the NYPD, I believe it is necessary.
True. Now, on what you call that, on your Twitter, I ran into a post where you were saying policing is a contact sport. Matter of fact, let me play the clip real quick.
Let them go! Let them go! You are attacking an unarmed civilian! You are attacking an unarmed civilian! Stay back! You are attacking an unarmed civilian! Stay back! Stay back! Stay back! Stay back!
What's your thoughts? What you mean by it's a contact sport?
Police work is a contact sport. It does not look pretty on camera. That's what I mean by that. When you're a police officer, your last resort is to get physical or having to utilize any type of force. But unfortunately, in all of time, you will use force. I mean, there are going to be scenarios that you're going to encounter where someone's acting completely irrational, where they're endangering you, themselves, other people, and force is going to be required. You're not going to go out on the streets of New York City as a police officer and not put your hands on someone. It's not going to happen. It's just not a possibility. We have a ton of mental illness, emotionally disturbed people. By contact sport, I don't mean that you're just going to tee off on someone and beat them up, but I run into an emotionally disturbed person who's a danger to himself or to others, and he doesn't want to go to the hospital, but he needs to go to the hospital to get on medication. I'm going to have to use force. Does that mean I have to cold clock him in his face? No, but I'm going to have to use force and wrestle him to the ground and use the minimal amount of necessary force. So that's what I say. Police work's a contact sport. It does not look pretty on camera.
Now, what I want to say about the contact sport, I'm going to put this on the screen. NYPD misconduct cost taxpayers nearly $115 million. $115 million in 2023. The Legal Aid Society released an analysis of data revealing that the city paid out almost $115 million in lawsuits alleging police misconduct for 2023. Since 2018, these lawsuits have cost taxpayers almost close to half a billion dollars, and the total payouts for police misconduct are likely substantially higher because these data do not account for matters that were settled prior to formal litigation. So what is the middle ground between the contact sport and costing taxpayers $115 million?
It's called leadership. It's having actual leadership and actual solutions. So what you're showing there is that what people should be enraged about is the New York City Law Department. I mean, potentially higher. That number that you put up is a fraction of what the payout actually is. The payout is about 6 times higher since 2015, possibly even 10 to 20 times higher. I forget the exact numbers. I had them at one time, but the city law department doesn't fight any cases. So there are numerous frivolous lawsuits against the NYPD that arise daily. This is a defense strategy used by defense attorneys to discredit proactive police officers and to help people defend their cases who are arrested for criminal actions. What if I'm arrested for saying anything, XYZ, rape, murder, drug dealing, whatever it may be? It's a great defense tactic to file a CCRB against the NYPD, file a lawsuit against the NYPD, and more than likely, even if the CCRB doesn't go through, even if your complaint is frivolous, the New York City Law Department is going to settle with you because what New York City officials, and by the way, this isn't just Eric Adams or Bill de Blasio, this stems back as far as I can remember, that with the overall narrative is it's cheaper to pay out the lawsuit than to actually litigate it in court. So that number has absolutely nothing to do and is not a true reflection of police misconduct.
Got it. Now, when I think about the contact sport and things of that nature, in my community, I grew up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I remember the cops, for the most part, especially when I was a teenager, being overly aggressive, right? And then I've also seen this on video plenty of times. I've seen my friends go through this, where the police officers is whipping your behind, and they telling you to stop resisting. And it seemed like they use that as a tool to get out whatever anger they may have. Like somebody's whipping on you, and they saying stop resisting, but it's natural for you to cover up and not give in. What do you say about when police officers do that? Because I've never seen a cop talk about that. What do you think about that?
I think that's complete nonsense. So, if you look at my Twitter thoroughly, you would see where I actually do call that out. I call out when it's wrong. Because honestly, as a police officer, I'm not there to instruct you. I'm not there to penalize you. I need to be bigger. I need to be better. So anyone that's punching you in the face and telling you to stop resisting as you're covering up and you're truly not resisting arrest, you want to put your hands behind your back, but natural reaction is I'm going to get punched in my face, I'm going to cover up. That person shouldn't be a police officer. They should get arrested and removed from the police department.
I agree. Now, I find this funny. Like your page, for those who don't know, we go give them your page at the end of the show. It's your Twitter is amazing. I like a lot of the stuff that you say, and I seen you say that we don't agree on like our points differ. You know, me reading your Twitter, I don't think we differ much.
No, just how we started, like on the Twitter space, because you were talking about where you were talking about the cops in the break room.
What are your thoughts on that?
So cops are allowed to take breaks just like MTA workers. So that's why I didn't get where that was coming from. I'm like,
I'm gonna break it down to you like this. Like, I agree. Oh, and for everyone watching, the phone lines are open. So if you want to call in and ask our guests any questions, the phone lines are open. So just how we look at the mayor, and it seemed like he's partying every weekend, and we calling him the party mayor. It's optics, right? The city is burning down, and the mayor is out there having a good old grand time, right? It's just not. It just doesn't look good, right? So it's the same thing in the subways. When we are getting our behinds kicked, when riders are getting their behinds kicked, they're shooting, there's stabbings, there's all type of treachery happening underground. And there's pictures of police officers sleeping, whether it's their break or not. Do you think those are good optics to see while the city is burning underground?
No, the optics are terrible. But I mean, look at it from how I view it. I'm like, should the cops be walking around taking pictures of MTA workers, sharing it on social media, and doing things of that nature?
They do it.
They shouldn't. I mean, honestly, like, we're all part of this together, and like we should be looking out for each other.
I agree.
And that's how, like, to me, I don't think that would ever happen to me, because if I was at a subway station or I was in a break room, I would talk to everybody and we would be friendly. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like anybody would do that to me. And I think we're losing this connection, not only as city workers, but as residents in New York City, where, like, as social media came in, like, the people don't know how to interact with each other anymore. And I 100% agree with you. The optics are terrible. The optics of police officers on their phones are terrible. You know, I know that the department put in a lot of things where the cops have to do paperwork on the phone, but I was totally against it, because I said they need to be in it. They need to see what's going on. You need to make eye contact. How you doing, ma'am? How you doing, sir? What's going on? Be in the game. That would deter more crime than anything I could think of.
Now, see, this is the thing with transit workers in NYPD, right? So when we're having problems and we need police assistance, there's no urgency. They dragging their ass. I just had a situation recently where a guy broke into a female conductor cab while she was working, and NYPD let the guy go because the guy said, "I know her," without even checking with her, right? There's a whole video with that. There's no urgency. Like, if a 1013 is called, police is running, no hesitation, right? And if we're supposed to be the same people and have the same respect, and you hear that a transit worker was assaulted, why are you dragging your ass to the scene, right? We've seen that time and time again. So we start adding that up. Then we start adding up them sleeping in our break rooms. Then we start adding up when we signaling for police en route, the police officers don't even know what the signal mean, right? So they drop the ball at every level, and then we get left holding the bag. So at what point is transit workers supposed to defend ourselves to say, hey, maybe this is contributing as to why this is happening? And you're right. Police officers, like any other worker, deserves a lunch break. But I'm telling you, every picture that I've ever received, when is these officers actually eating? Because I know lunch breaks, people eat, they drink, and things of that nature. These officers never have no food around. Now, there's an excuse for everything. Oh, they were sleeping. We work in 16-hour shifts, this and that. I've been with transit for 10 years. Ever since my first year, the officers been sleeping in the rooms. This has been a big thing that nobody is addressing. NYPD is not addressing. I had a friend that worked in, what you call that? When they go investigate the police officers. I had a friend that was doing that, and I know that they take it serious, but it don't seem like nothing is being done with the leadership level, as you would say, to address this, to at least make us feel like that they care in the subways. So that's my position on that. And speaking of the subways, the chiefs in the subways, strictly PR, right? And I want to pull up your tweet on that. Do you feel safe in New York City subways? Chiefs on the train obviously don't. How many cops did they bring for a photo op? If the city was safe, cops, regardless of rank, wouldn't even have a security team. Please expand on that.
So Chiefs on the train, 100% public relations campaign, 100% go out there and let's sell to the public that crime is down, transit crime is down, the subways are safe. I mean, and what did we see? We saw chiefs in white shirts all go down into the subway at the same time for one day. This isn't going to be part of like a routine thing where they're going to pop up and all this. They go down one day, and what do they bring? They bring a team of photographers. They bring a social media team. They bring plainclothes security team. They come down with a group of 20 uniformed officers, and basically they gaslight everybody. And they sit there and they're like, you feel safe, right? Well, now I do. You obviously don't, though, because you came down here with 20 uniformed members of service, and you have a plainclothes uniform team. You have a plainclothes security team with you. So I feel safer than you do. So when I see that, it bothers me, because this is what brings communities and police further apart, right? Because they're not having the conversation that me and you are having right now. It's not a real conversation. This is a condescending, crime's down, pat you on the head, now be on your way. Look, we came down, we shook hands, we took a bunch of photos, we did a photo op. So to me, Chiefs on the train's a slap on the face to everybody, and to not to just the public, to the cops that are out there working, to everybody.
Do you agree that the NYPD have a great PR game?
I think that PR game's terrible. I mean, if you follow our podcast, if you follow our social media, I mean, the memes we put out, I mean, I think we debunk basically everything. I think that PR game's terrible. I think they need to hire somebody and really get more in line with the ideology of everyday New Yorkers.
I agree. Let's take the first caller now. Like I said, I never use this, so you let me know if you hear the caller or not, or whatever the case is, right? So let me get into the first caller. Caller 1228. You now live on Progressive Action TV. What's your name? Where you calling from? You got to turn. You got. Let me get back to. Let me get back to that person. People, when you call in, talk to me like you talking to me on the phone, please. Do not listen to the show and talk to me. It confuses everything. Let me get to the next caller. 6483. You're now live on Progressive Action TV. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good afternoon. Celso Garcia, bus operator, Bronx.
All right, John. Can you hear him, John?
I could hear him a little bit. Yeah, I could hear him.
Let me turn him up. All right, go ahead, Celso. Quick, let's keep the questions quick because we want to run through them.
I want to know what the strategy is on the buses, because the transit police used to ride the buses before, and I remember when I was a kid, if you went into the back door, they will pull you out and you end up in the precinct. How has the strategy changed since the 80s to now? That's my main question. And also, how has the approach changed towards transit workers and working together with NYPD or helping each other? Those are my two main questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for calling in. Did you hear that, John?
I heard it, and I can't really speak officially. I'm not in the department anymore, but I believe that on the buses, it stayed the same. Unfortunately, the bus drivers don't get as much attention as transit are getting now, but I see that you guys are experiencing the same exact things that are happening in transit. Bus drivers are being assaulted, they're being mistreated, they're being abused. You're having people walk on your bus every day. I know numerous bus drivers, I know numerous train operators. So I hear a lot from you guys, a lot about it, that it's truly not, you don't feel safe on certain bus routes and certain times of the day and certain nights. So I believe the strategy stayed the same, but as we see a deterioration in policing throughout New York City, you're going to feel it in every aspect of New York City, where basically, the city is really becoming, you're seeing crime rise at a significant rate.
That's true. Let me try this caller again, the 1228. Caller 1228. You
Hello?
now? Yes. How you doing? What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Rhonda Morrison. I'm out of West Farms Bus Depot in Bronx. And I drive on Hunts Point. So I drive the 6 bus. I went downstairs in the train station, and there were 4 officers in the Hunts Point train station. And as I'm waiting for someone to come out the bathroom, one of the officers told a guy to jump the turnstile. He said, "What are you, 6'2"? Step over it." They literally hold the doors open. And when I asked him, I said, "That's a slap in the face to us, what you're telling them to do." And he said that his upper brass told him he doesn't want a crowd forming in the train station. So this is what they do. I just want to know, is that true or not? Because I'm not for taking pictures and all of that. I usually just speak up and ask a question. And sometimes your officers, they don't like that either. But I just want to get your point of view on that.
So, I mean, again, I wasn't there and I don't know. And I am retired. I am no longer a member of the New York City Police Department. So I can't speak officially for them. But what I'll say is I have been seeing it a lot. I have been seeing a lot of videos of cops letting people through. And I believe that if he told you that's what they're being told to do, it's probably what they're being told to do, because even the press conference that we just played, you heard it. "Oh, we're just going to stop you. We might not arrest you. We might not give you a summons." So it kind of falls in line with everything that we're seeing. So, I mean, and again, like, to speak on actions of individual officers, really couldn't. I mean, I wouldn't ask any of you guys to speak on the actions of an individual bus driver or an individual train conductor. But overall, I think what you're saying, it sounds pretty much like what I'm seeing, and it looks like it's coming again from the upper echelon of the NYPD.
Well, I want to say this, Rhonda, do you have a follow-up question?
I do have a follow-up question. My question is that this working in this city is a hard job. I get it from all aspects. Bus operator, sanitation, NYPD, corrections, whatever it is. And every city agency is getting looked at and getting scrutinized. And transit, I don't care. I'm just going to say it. I don't think they want the system to get better. You know what I'm saying? Certain agencies don't want to get better because they want to scoop the cream off the top because they want to get that extra federal money. You got us pushing F5, which you wouldn't know about, but Trammell would, or maybe you don't, Trammell. They got us pushing buttons to count people who's not paying so that they can report a loss, I guess, and get some money back from that on top of getting federal money, like every company out here. But they're putting us on the front lines. And this is what I don't like. And, it's unfortunate, but honestly, if I didn't have the years that I had on the job, I would leave. And that's why transit and a lot of these agencies are not going to keep the people that are coming on the job now, because things are just doesn't seem like they're going to change. But thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thanks for calling in, Rhonda. So yeah, she mentioned of, police officers letting people through the gate. Let me play that video so the viewers could see what's going on.
Now he's gonna open the door for all these people to get in for free. Look at this shit. Oh yeah, I got you. Look at this. The cop opened the door for all of them to get in. The police officer did this. Look how many people came in.
Now, how can something like that be? When we hear NYPD say most of the people who's committing the crimes are not paying the fare, and then we see a video like this where two NYPD officers let at least 20 people through the gate, and it's not even exclusive at this station. If any transit workers worked at Coney Island Stillwell during the summertime, the NYPD let everyone through the gate for free. Right? So how can both of these things exist at the same time? And if that's the case, what role does NYPD play in the crime in the subways if they are letting people through the gate for free?
I mean, it's a solid point. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And again, it goes back to their lack of PR skills and their lack of leadership and the lack of a clear message, not only to the men and women of the New York City Police Department, but to their partners in the city, specifically the MTA in this case, and to the riders. Right? Because if I'm going there and I'm using my Metro card and I'm paying, and I see everybody's going in for free, I'm like, what am I paying for? And this is what we're seeing, a deterioration of norms, of societal norms, of society. It's the same thing as just like what you just saw there. It's like, why are people shoplifting? Because nothing happens to them when they do it. So why not? Why? But yet I go in the store and I'm the idiot that's waiting an hour for them to unlock the case, and then I'm paying for what I need to get. And this is a failure in leadership on the part of New York City. And I say it, as Eric Adams said, the commissioners run their agencies, but I run the commissioners. So is it all Eric Adams' fault? Absolutely not. Bill de Blasio had a huge role in this, and I got a lot of bad things I could say about Mike Bloomberg too. He was up on stage dancing and he thought he was a play guy and he was singing and he was doing all that, but the city was running. The city was flourishing. We were all doing well under those regimes. Now, I mean, we're not doing well. We've gotten raises, but inflation's shooting up, so it's almost like not even getting a raise. And then it's just terrible leadership. And now you see a depletion in all the staff, like Rhonda was just talking about. And I mean, again, I'm 43 years old. I was an 18-year lieutenant. I had very minimal complaints. I was 5.0 rated, and I was told I was going to be fired in 7 days if I didn't take a vaccine that I already had antibodies for. I mean, so I was forced into a retirement, and there were thousands of people like me across New York City. Some were terminated. I have friends who were terminated. They're fired cops. They're fired teachers. They're fired firefighters. For what? For what? What did I do wrong? I never did anything. And if you go through any of the communities I ever served in, they loved me. The business owners, the people, the kids that were up to no good, everybody, they liked me. They thought I was a cop. They thought I did my job.
Do you believe that police officers are underpaid in New York City?
I don't. I don't believe police officers are underpaid. I believe that they'll never get what they're paid for. I myself made a lot of money in the NYPD. I was a lieutenant. Now I'd be making $200,000 a year at least. I mean, I don't believe I lived a very frugal life in the NYPD. Did I work for my money? Did I work 7 days a week? Did I ever really get to see my kids? No. Did I get to spend a lot of time with my wife? No. I worked a lot. I worked almost 7 days a week. In the overtime, I winded up making a lot of money. I was able to live. Should I live like a rock star? I mean, you're never going to get paid for what you're doing. I mean, look at the guys that serve in our United States military. They don't get a quarter of the amount of money that we get paid to do. But policing's honestly, it'll test your soul. It's a very, very hard job, just the schedule alone. So I believe at this current rate, they're making decent money. But if I take everyone in New York City and I look at all the city workers in New York City, I'm going to say the most under people in New York City at this point is EMS. EMS really needs to get on par with a lot of other people. They're very underpaid. And when you're actually living in New York City, the cost of inflation, rents, mortgages, the price of homes, I don't care what you make. It's never going to be enough as a city job. You almost need to be a CEO of a corporation at this point to live nice in New York City.
Well, I believe police officers are underpaid. Looking at what you guys deal with, you got to be mental health expert, counselors. You have to be mental health people. You have to be police officers. You have to be EMS until EMS get there. If anything, a building is burning, you're expected to run inside there and take action. So I believe that police officers, including other, city workers, are underpaid also. Now, speaking of, you was talking about not throwing other police officers up under the bus and things of that nature, and touching on the blue wall of silence. Now, for me, I don't believe in a good cop or a bad cop. I believe in good people, bad people, right? No matter what your profession is, right? Of course, when you're a police officer, it's amplified because of the power that police officers have. Do you believe the blue wall of silence contributed to public distrust when it comes to integrity of the NYPD?
So I don't really believe that there's a blue wall of silence amongst the rank and file. But I will say, as far as the upper echelon's concerned, there is one narrative, and that narrative will not be broken by anybody, not a retired cop who started a podcast, who goes out on social media and advocates, none of that. And I believe the narrative that's pushed, the public relations through the upper echelon of the NYPD and what they tell the public, 1000% contributes to pushing cops and communities further away from each other. Because again, like I said, they're patting everyone on the head, talking down to you and walking away when you got a question. And if you ask a real question, oh, let me talk to you after. Let me talk to you after. And then they run out the back door. So that's, again, they're not real conversations. I don't believe that, NYPD and most police departments at one time were systemically corrupt. But as the time that I grew up, and to the time now, I think that what you saw in like the mid 2000s was probably one of the best versions of policing you've ever seen. The least amount of corruption, the least amount of systemic corruption. So I don't really believe the blue wall of silence exists other than in the upper echelon and what they push down to the public.
Now, it has to exist on the ground level for the simple fact that, when certain things happen amongst rank and file police officers, you don't see police officers telling on other officers. They basically turn the other cheek. That contributes to the blue wall.
Give an example. Like I don't know what like what.
So my situation, when the police officers pulled me out my car because I was driving a nice car, broke my glove compartment, and they basically sped off after they put me back in the car. All those other officers knew it was wrong what those other officers did, right? He didn't stop them. He didn't report it. He didn't say anything, right? So for me, that contributes to that blue wall of silence. And that's not the only time. My incident is not isolated, right? This happens almost every day. It happens amongst transit workers too, right? Where we see each other commit infractions and we'll turn the other head, or supervisors would turn the other head. So it's not unheard of, but when police officers do it, they have the ability to negatively affect someone's life as soon as those handcuffs go on them, right? So there's a blue wall of silence amongst the rank and file.
So I think a lot of it contributes from cowardice and integrity, like you said. So then I would say that the vaccine mandate, you would see the blue wall of silence in that as well, right? Because nobody spoke up about that either. And if you look at any studies, it's about 2% of the people who will go away from the crowd. So I don't believe that that's just part of being policing, right? That's like you said, it's in any profession. So I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the policing profession that shouldn't be, that don't exhibit integrity, that are cowardice, that will go along with the crowd. The people that stand out, the people that'll speak up are the ones, it's a small minority of people, and that holds true in every profession. So is it wrong? It's absolutely wrong. But I don't think there's a lot of corruption going down currently, where people are being silent about it. But at the same time, I did say, you got rid of all the people that'll speak up. So now you throw somebody else into a precinct, and the precinct's corrupt, and they're robbing drug dealers and they're selling drugs. You basically removed all the people that would have said something. I would have said something. I would have started locking people up. I would have investigated it. But now you took the guys that are just going to put the blinders on and throw them there. And guess what? They're not going to say nothing. They're not going to do nothing. So, and I believe, throughout any profession and in society, there's a very small minority of people who will not follow the crowd. And if the crowd's doing one thing, they'll go along with it, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, in NYPD, they have a habit of eating their own too. I mean, just pointing back to Edwin Raymond, when he started whistleblowing, how he was marginalized at every turn. He had to fight for every, he had to fight to be a sergeant. He had to fight to be a lieutenant. So we see that the NYPD has the ability to eat their own when people do decide to say what they feel the right thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there was actually a situation much worse than Edwin Raymond too. I feel terrible for what Edwin went through. Again, like I said, I don't agree with a lot of what Edwin Raymond says. I have read his book. He's been on my show. We do agree on one thing though. The leadership's lacking. And there's a situation for anybody listeners. Look up Adrian Schoolcraft. He was basically sent to a psych ward. He's not crazy, but he wouldn't downgrade crimes. He was a good cop. Cops liked him. Supervisors liked him, but he refused to downgrade crimes. And he was eventually taken to a psych ward and spent days there. And he's ultimately no longer a police officer. And he won a rather large settlement, not big enough from what happened to him. But again, like I said, that is what I see from the upper echelon. If you go against the official narrative, again, like I said, I've had mobsters threaten me. I've had active on-duty cops threaten myself, my children. My co-host has had active on-duty cops threaten himself and his children as well, just for giving our opinion. Like honestly, just for what we're doing here. Nothing targeted. Nothing. Just giving my opinion. You go through my tweets. I don't think they're that radical. It's just
way more radical than yours. I guarantee you that.
I think I'm pretty so yeah, there, like I said, when you look at that upper echelon, if you go against that official narrative, there's a problem there. There's a problem there, and the average person and the average police officer really has nobody to go to if they want to be a whistleblower. You almost have to get out of the department at that point.
Now, with you being a former street crime unit cop, and I have a lot of friends that's in NYPD, and the top side cops is what they would call y'all, and the subway cops. There's a saying to say that if you want to be a cop and don't do any work, go to transit. Is that true? Or did you ever hear that?
I never heard it. I know a lot of transit guys. I know transit is a different animal than like patrol. Like I know it's a lot different dynamic. What I do know about the transit cops though, like for me, what I always heard is if you want to make money, go to transit because they're doing overtime. That's how I heard it. I never heard if you don't want to do anything. Me personally, I wouldn't want to be down in that hole, working all those hours with just me and another person with thousands of people, and anything could happen. And with terrorism and all that, I liked being outside. I liked traveling the roads. I could stop at a restaurant, get food, go back in my car, drive around, see the sun, feel the elements. So I don't know. I never really heard it like that. I heard it if you want to make money, go to transit.
I mean, listen, I get it in transit. When you're on patrol, anything can happen. Responding to a domestic violence call, one of the dangerous calls you could respond to, car stops, dangerous call you could respond to. In transit, they not really responding to anything really too much dangerous like you would in patrol.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, listen, I've been in scenes on transit that are horrible. Cop shot, people shot, where I ran down to assist, or I ran up in Brooklyn, up on the upper raised platforms. So do they get the volume of calls that you get on the street? No, they definitely don't get that same volume where you're getting 20, 30 calls a night and you're running. But it's a dangerous job. And like you said, you were talking about the light and you're calling for assistance. I don't even know what that is. So I wouldn't know either. So if they stick me down there for the day on this new deployment of 1,000 officers a day, and that happens, I'm not properly trained to even be in transit at that point.
See, and that's a major issue because the transit authority only cares about the movement of trains. I'm telling you, they don't, I don't care what's going on your train. Their thing is signal for police en route. I ask police officers, do you know what our signals are? They'd be like, no. So if we are in desperate need of help right then and there, the police officers is not going to respond. So to all the police officers who's watching right now, let me give you a brief example of what the call is. It's when the train operator or the conductor hit the horn. It's a long, short, long, short. So it's a and if you want to remember it easily, it's help me, help me. That's how you remember it. A lot of officers are in the subway system to provide a deterrence presence, but if we are in need of help right then and there, they don't come. They never respond to the train horns, and that's another issue. Now I want to play this this clip of the police stopping a guy in the subway, and I want your opinion. And this is all after the bag searches and all this stuff has recently happened. This video came out maybe like 2 days ago, so I want to get your opinion on it. Check it out.
Sure.
No, I don't have to go downstairs. You can call your sergeant.
You asked for a sergeant. You're supposed to call your sergeant.
Exactly. They know that.
Call your sergeant.
They know that. Call your sergeant. You should know I'm fasting right now.
Because you guys are trying to bully you, trying to be a gang.
So do you think I'm out here trying to commit crimes going wrong about it?
You coming from work. He said that's his work too. You asked for a supervisor. Call your supervisor.
Going back to my work site.
That's his right. Ask for a supervisor. Call your supervisor.
Somebody not just get shot on the train? Right? No.
Call your supervisor.
That's totally different. Can you call your supervisor?
Yeah, call your supervisor. You asked for a supervisor. Call your supervisor. Call your supervisor.
No, you don't have to put me in cuffs. There's no reason to put me in cuffs. Call your lieutenant. Excuse me, sir.
You're the supervisor?
No, but he's the sergeant.
Because these cops are the line.
Sir,
He have a knife for work purposes and they trying to bully him. No, I'm not leaving.
Yo, what are y'all doing? And what are y'all doing?
Yeah. So the whole fucking world could see that y'all are fucking tyrants. Dirty fucking cops. Dirty fucking cops. And you ain't no better. You are a piece of shit. You.
Wait, where's my cell phone? Put it in my pocket.
He showed y'all what he had. Y'all still gonna arrest him?
Yeah, they are fucking tyrants. They dirty cops.
What happened here? What did you see?
All right. So I don't know that the original stop. To me, it appears that they saw a blade in his pocket in plain view. It also appears that he's dirty from coming from work to me. So I kind of believe his story that he's a construction worker and the knife is for construction purposes, as well as possibly to defend yourself. Because hey, let's just say, New York's a crazy place. I mean, I'm it is what it is. So they stopped him. It looks to me like he was going to get a summons, and he started to escalate the situation. He was pulling the knife out. He's like doing this with it. He's not complying. He's getting loud. A crowd's forming. The sergeant comes. It escalates. Now they put him in handcuffs. Do I think that this is necessary for public safety? No, I don't. Do I think that someone coming from work with a tool of their trade should be arrested for that? No, I don't. But at the same time, I've been stopped numerous times. I've been arrested. We talk about de-escalation and cops. They need to de-escalate the situation. Same for the public. Just like my father always told me, these guys have guns. They have the authority. No one's going to take your word for it. Just play nice and listen to them. And honestly, I think from what I'm seeing, I think that if it was handled a little bit better on the individual who was stopped end, I feel like he would have just walked away with a summons and he would have went on his way and went home that night. Is it right that he got a summons? Probably not. Is it helping public safety? No. But there's going to be scenarios and and things are going to happen. And you got to kind of roll with the punches, and then tell it to the judge. I was coming from work, Judge. I had the knife in my pocket, and more than likely, he's not gonna, you're not gonna get.
But picture coming home from work, long day, construction worker, probably got to get home to your kids, probably tired. Why do it's easy to say, well, just let whatever happen and go see a judge, but this man is coming from work. I mean, it's actually against everything that the MTA want. They want people to use public transportation, right? If you work construction and carry tools, how do you handle or how does NYPD address that situation? Like everything seems to be very reactionary right now.
Well, it is reactionary. I mean, and what are we talking about? We're talking about rising crime. We're talking about safety. We're talking about keeping people safe. And I don't believe that we should be giving up our freedoms for safety and saying, falling into this police state of New York City. But there are rules in transit, right? If I am a construction worker, I'm going to hide that knife in my pocket the next time. I'm not going to keep it in plain view where police can see it. And people really shouldn't be having weapons in transit. And that's really what it comes down to. So it's like, what do we want? Do we want people to be able to do everything they want? Or do we want to try to stop this flow of crime from happening in the subways? And so that's the dichotomy with policing. It's like, we don't want crime, but we don't want to be bothered by the cops either. And it's like, it's a juggling act. And being a police officer is a very hard act to do. There's not a lot of people that are very good at it. There's not a lot of people that understand the different ethnicities in New York City and the language of New York City and the pace of New York City. And there's not a lot of great communicators, not in policing, not even just in policing, in the world, right? Mm-hmm. These are the things that happen as we continue to fight crime, right? City was safe under Bloomberg. It was safer under Rudy Giuliani, right? But these interactions happened a lot. So that's what us as a society need to determine. What should the police be doing? What is a police officer? What should they be doing to stop crime? Because ultimately, the police should be a reflection of the community and what they want.
Mm-hmm. So now when Eric Adams was running, former police captain, you as a police officer, did you feel like you're finally going to have support being that the mayor was a former cop?
No, because one, he was for the vaccine mandate. So I didn't want him to be the mayor. I was totally against him as the mayor at that point. I felt that was totalitarian. Myself as a supervisor, I had about 800 people underneath me, and it was bigger than me just having to take the shot. I would have had to coerce people to do it. I would have had to terminate people who worked under me. So I did not support Eric Adams at all. As far as his police career, I don't really know where he stands, because Eric Adams at one time supported broken windows and stop, question, frisk. And then at another time he doesn't. And then he supports bail reform, and then he doesn't. And then he supports, I don't know who the guy is. I never thought of him as a great cop, and he's not someone who I would emulate as a politician or as a man.
Do you think he get reelected?
I think he has a great shot at getting reelected. I mean, I think New York City, if you see what's going on right now in New York City, city council is again trying to push for this non-citizen voting in New York City to allow people who don't have immigration status to vote in New York City elections. And I think if that happens, he's a shoo-in, because he puts people who came to this country prior to the people who've been here. He puts them ahead of those people. He puts them ahead of the transit workers, the cops, the firemen, the people who are struggling to get ahead in New York City, the business owners. He puts people that never really paid into the system ahead of all of us. So, but I do think the big money remains behind him, and the political game. He says all the right things. You know, I won't beat around the bush. I think him being black is a big standpoint for why people vote for him. Oh, I'm not racist. I want a black mayor. He looks like me. There's a lot of that going on in New York City, and I feel that honestly, I'm blacker than Eric Adams. I think Eric Adams is a white liberal. I think he totally forgot where he came from, and I think he's an elitist. He has an elitist attitude, and he hides behind that he's a moderate ex-police officer, and he believes in keeping crime down. And then at the same token, he hides behind, well, oh, I was arrested when I was a kid, and I know what you feel, and you look like me. And so he's kind of the perfect candidate in New York City for this moment in time, but he's the absolute wrong person to run the city.
That was very big right there. For everybody who's listening, please make sure that you like this video right now. Make sure you like the video, and the phone lines will be open for a couple of more minutes. It's for a couple of more minutes. We are an hour and a half in, and it don't even feel like that, John, because this conversation is moving so fluidly. Now, Caban, I don't know where this guy came from. I don't know anything about him really, but what are your thoughts when Keechant Sewell left and he took her place?
So first, I'll say I would still love to know why Keechant Sewell left. Eric Adams stated that his commissioner would be a female police commissioner. Now I don't know why. If I was the mayor or you were the mayor, I would hope that we would just put in the person that we feel is.
I'm gonna tell you why. If we notice when Eric Adams first came in, he wanted to be the first to do something, right? He wanted the first black woman police commissioner. He wanted to be the first mayor to have 5 women deputy mayors, right? So his whole entire incumbency, if you want to call it that, was based on, I want to be the first to do X, Y, and Z, right? So that's why he made her. He was focused on making a woman the police commissioner. But yeah, continue.
So I was told that his police commissioner was going to be a female police commissioner, but Keechant Sewell was very well liked by the men and women in the New York City Police Department. She was very well received by the media, and she was very well received by New York City communities. So I don't believe we ever really got a chance to see who Keechant Sewell was, because I don't believe she really was the police commissioner at the end of the day. And she left. She left just shy of a year of a term, or just right after a year of a term. And then what do we get? We got the first Latino police commissioner. From everything I hear about Ed Caban, he's not a bad guy. He's a guy you'd like to hang out with. He's a guy you'd like to go to barbecue with. He's a guy you'd like to drink with. But I'll tell you right now, I'm watching Ed Caban, and he's not the police commissioner either. So he's been very silent. He's another guy who likes to party all the time with Eric Adams. You know, he's the nightlife police commissioner. He's Eric Adams' wingman. They're out at night. They're partying. I see him at a lot of events. I see him at award ceremonies. I see him at cultural celebrations. I don't see him when it comes time to talk about the policies of the police, when it comes time to talk about what the police are doing, when there's heavy crime involved. And we have seen that in the past from police commissioners. So Ed Caban to me is really, he's insignificant as far as being a police commissioner. You know, and one other first that Eric Adams has is he's the first New Jersey resident to be.
You know what? He may be a New Jersey resident, but there's a difference between residence and home. That's what I'm starting to figure out now. Now, speaking of police commissioners, it does seem like Daughtry is the police commissioner.
So there was an article not too long ago, probably about a year ago, when Kaz Daughtry was a detective, while Keechant Sewell was still the police commissioner. And it said the real police commissioner. I believe Tina Moore wrote the article in the New York Post. And at the time I said, I don't think that he's the police commissioner, but he's probably got the rank of chief assimilated, because I didn't know he bossed around high-ranking members of the police department in chief ranks, very high ranking. And I did hear a speech from Keechant Sewell where she spoke at a women's believe it was during Women's History Month, where she spoke and she said, "You're going to be told what to do by people who are half your age and have half your experience." And now looking back on that, I believe that she was talking about Kaz Daughtry. But as I seen his dramatic rise through the ranks, not through the ranks, but right past the ranks to this deputy commissioner of operation. And he's the one speaking to the public, and he's public facing. And it seems like all of the ideas that are coming out of the police department, chiefs on the train, drones, now cameraing up the trains, are all coming from Kaz Daughtry. I believe that article was very accurate, and I think that he is the real police commissioner.
What was your thoughts when Rodney Harrison left? He seemed to be well liked in the department. What was your thoughts when he left?
I mean, I'll be honest, Rodney Harrison was well liked. I felt like he was a high riser. He was probably someone that would have been a shoo-in for police commissioner. So when he originally left, I figured there was a scandal that was going to follow not too long after, because I was like, why did he leave? That didn't make any sense. It's either that there's either a scandal, or he's just not in with the in crowd, and there's something personal there with the new change of regime, and he knew that he was on the outs. So those were my two theories about it. Because again, the NYPD, New York City, like we're seeing, I didn't realize it. Maybe I was young and dumb and naive, or maybe it always was. But what I see now is it's Game of Thrones, right? Like everybody just, you come in, you're the pauper one day, you're the king the next day, and then you're back to being the pauper again.
Listen, we got 300 people watching right now on Twitter. So I need you guys to retweet this very important conversation. Normally when I have conversations like this, a lot of people do not call in because I guess they enjoying the conversation so much. But yeah, the phone lines will be open for another 2 minutes. So if you want to call up and ask the lieutenant a question, and I must say, he has been, I like you, man. I like you, man. Like, you've been keeping it real. You're speaking real honest. We may not agree, and I hate when people say that. Oh, we don't agree with everything. Who in life do you really agree 100% with? Right?
Nobody.
I don't agree with. I don't agree with my parents 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's not nothing to say. Yes, we're going to have differences of opinion, but that doesn't mean that I should hate you or you should hate me, or we can't come to a table to talk with each other because, like, the most complained cop?
Yep.
He said something of something brings opportunity. I forgot exactly.
Opposition
brings opportunity, right?
Opposition means opportunity.
These conversations are needed because you never have someone with my perspective and your perspective on platforms openly having these conversations, right? Yeah, we may tweet with each other, we may have back and forths like this, but this dialogue is very, very, very important to the people, especially for, my transit workers, the riders who support me. I'm quite sure your fellow police officers. It's about getting insight on our different lives. Oh, wow, I didn't know that they think about it like this. Oh, I didn't know this is how they go about things, right? It's about having that understanding. Even if we don't agree, at least we will understand where we're coming from at the end of the day.
Absolutely. To me, that's the truest form of love. If you got something in your teeth and I see it and I don't tell you about it, but it's bothering me, I did you a disservice that day. If I feel something that you said isn't right and I want to just say, hey, well, this is what I think about it. Everybody wants to win. That's what I see. Everybody wants to win conversations. And the last thing that I ever want to do is win a conversation. I just want to be respectful. I get my point across. You get your point across. And that's basically what we do on our podcast as well. Same thing. I had, we're the finest unfiltered, by the way, New York's finest retired unfiltered podcast. My co-host is the most complained about cop in the NYPD. And we've had Cop Watch on our show. Cop Watch actually sued Eric and won $1 million from that case from my co-host. And, when we did that, the backlash that we got from cops, you guys are sellouts. You guys are traitors. You guys are this. And I'm like, why are we so far apart? Is because we don't talk. We don't talk. So they're shut out, we're shut out, and it's just tribalism, and it's dumb and it's stupid. And the same happened when we had Edwin Raymond on the show. People would say Edwin Raymond's my polar opposite, but he's really not. He's had a different experience in life. I don't know what it's like to be a poor black kid growing up in Flatbush. I don't know that. And he doesn't know what it's like to be a poor Italian kid growing up in Bensonhurst. So let's talk about it and let's put it out there,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. See, and like you said, oh, you're a traitor, you're this. They talking about that blue wall, brother.
But it's in society. It's everywhere. It's tribalism. It's like the whole Trump thing. It's like all that stuff too. Trump, Kennedy, this. It's tribalism, right? I'm listen. I'm going to support Donald Trump for president, but I like Robert Kennedy. And a lot of my friends like Robert Kennedy. Should I hate them? I have friends that voted for Joe Biden. Should I hate them? Should I not talk to them because they voted for Joe Biden? Like, I don't think that it's a smart move to vote for Joe Biden. I supported Donald Trump in the last 2 elections, but so what? And I could give you all the reasons, and you give me all the reasons, and we could go out to dinner and have a good day and have fun about the things we have fun about. I mean, it's New York City. Like, I don't know why we all know even what we vote. I never knew that growing up. I never knew who was a Democrat or Republican. I never knew if my teacher was a Democrat or Republican. And like I think we're getting lost in the mix in a lot of things. And this is how we bridge the gap and try to heal this country. Really try to get together and what do we want? How do we want to live as a society?
I agree, and I talk about political tribalism all the time. And, tribalism in general, especially, Democrats, Republicans, no matter what it may be, what I find the issue with it is that when you are part of that situation, the political tribalism, you end up defending things that you necessarily wouldn't agree with. But just because you are a part of that tribe, you're going to defend it, right? And people need to think more independently. Right. It's a right to be a part of a team, but also learn how to think independently and think for yourself. And I think that's what's very important for me, dealing with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is that he allows us to have a different of opinion. Right. He don't hold it against us. He don't treat us any different. Nothing. Right. Yo, look, we don't agree with this. All right. He give us his reason. We give him our reason. Right. And he don't hold it against us. And I love that about him. I love that about him because you could talk to him about anything. He won't judge you. He won't hold it against you. He would just try to educate you the best that he can. And we'll educate him the best that we can. And I don't see that in any other candidate at all. And, it's a pleasure to work closely with him on a campaign and giving me, I'm a poor black kid from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I would never think that I would be an advisor to a Kennedy, and let alone a presidential candidate. And the results is beautiful. I love working with people that we don't see eye to eye with on certain things and have different backgrounds and learning from them and them learning from me. The campaign is just a beautiful experience for me. But look, I would like for you to tell the people where they could find you at, where they could listen to your podcast, your social medias. Give them the rundown.
Yeah, so if you want to follow me, I use my name for everything, at John D. Macari. I put myself out there. That's, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. Those are the 2 main platforms. I also co-host on the podcast, New York's Finest, Retired and Unfiltered podcast. We're on YouTube. It's at The Finest Unfiltered, on Rumble, at The Finest Unfiltered. And we're on anywhere where you could find audio podcasts, Spotify, Apple, all that. It's a growing brand. It's really been a great experience. I've gotten to meet a lot of people I never thought I would, speaking, having conversations I never thought I'd have. And it's been a great ride. My co-host is Eric Dim. He is the most complained cop in New York City, and he uses the tag most complained cop to show as who cops really are. Because when you look at Eric Dim's 50A, you see something very different than when you actually talk to Eric and then you actually go through his complaints. And so he's using it as a moniker to try to show the system and how it's broken and how we're actually targeting the wrong cops and what we're doing. The people that you want to be cops, you're looking at. And that's not true for everybody. There's some people that the 50A is exactly what it is, and they shouldn't be cops, and they weren't cops. And I'm not saying that all cops are great, but we're just trying to get the conversations a lot more nuanced than this guy's got CCRBs and that. And it's like trying to humanize the profession more and really getting down and having the real conversations. What's going on in the public? What are you mad about? So I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you listening. I'm glad we got a good crew tonight. And this was a great conversation. I look forward to having more.
A lot of people definitely tuned in tonight. I actually want to do a show with you and Edwin.
Yeah, let's do it.
I would love to do a show. Before we get out of here, I want to remind you guys that we are having our rally May 1st, 12 p.m. at 2 Broadway. We are not safe riding the MTA. This is an assault and safety rally. This is for everyone, the community, strap hangers, workers, NYPD. I don't care who you are. Come out. We're going to make it a great event. And it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you. I'm looking forward to having more conversations with you. And we're going to keep it going. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, donate to the channel, $ Progressive Action 100. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.